Oh, hey. Fancy seeing you here. Got a Hot August Nights in 3 weeks. Project Blitz back in the garage. Got a lot of stuff we got to get done. Let's get to it.
Like the man said, we did not realize that Hot August Nights was already basically 3 weeks away, 2 weekends legitimately, and we have a lot of extra work to do, a lot of tidying up, and a couple of little troubleshooting things that we need to work on. Now, a lot of that is stuff that we already have an idea for, and we have a plan, but we definitely need to get started now because we're running out of time rather quickly to try and put our best foot forward for giving this car the best opportunity for covering a large elevation difference and running well, and him sitting in the car for multiple days in the heat, having to drive it on cruise routes and things of that nature. So we got a lot of work to do. Let's see what he's got in mind. What's first, Cody?
So, might not be first on the list of things to do, but this is the big one. This is kill mat. We got 50 mil adhesive back, tar back kill mat, which is going to be basically a two-parter. It's going to be sound deadening because all these aluminum panels that we made rattle. And then it's also going to help with some heat dispersion in the cab. So we're going to line all of the footboards, the trans tunnel, basically everything we can, including the roof up underneath, so that we can try to mitigate some of that heat, because we have a heater built into the car at this point with the turbo, and cab gets a little warm.
A 228 horsepower heater.
Yeah.
That's impressive. The most exciting thing. Let's take a look at the dash real quick. Let's go in here.
Okay.
And what is that?
It's ugly.
That is a giant freaking hole.
Yeah.
And a bunch of stock stuff, and then it's a Miata tombstone. And it sucks. So what are we gonna do about that?
It's pretty ugly. So
what's the plan of attack?
I still have the Opel GT faceplate that covers that whole thing, and we're gonna actually skin that with aluminum. We're gonna keep it, but I think we're gonna skin it with aluminum, and we're gonna go with a digital dash, full 10.1 inch digital dash that runs off of a Raspberry Pi 4, and it runs Tuner Studio, which is the tuning software that we use for the Mega Squirt ECU that we have. So anything that runs through that ECU is going to run through here via USB, and I will be able to get a digital readout of everything that ECU is saying, and the LCD screen is going to give us the readout from the Raspberry Pi, which is running the tuning software that we use for the ECU for the Mega Squirt, and it actually allows us to do a customized dash readout on this 10-inch screen that we can put anywhere. So any information running through the ECU, if we want to see it, we can see it. We can also tune on the fly. If there's any issues, I can call the boys down at AED, Toby, and the guys, see if they have any suggestions. If we needed to make a change or send them a file or anything that we need to do for that, we can with this setup as it sits.
Let's get started. We got a lot to do.
Let's do it. All right, kids. So we were able to get all that stuff disconnected. Got the plenum gasket out, and hard to see it, but that little ridge is pretty flat now, so you can barely even catch a fingernail on it. They've got this new one from the auto parts store. It's just a Velcro, but nothing too crazy. We'll get that thrown back in. While we're here and we got the top hat, or the top of the plenum taken off, we're going to check through the intake, or the injectors. Since we did swap those injectors in, we're just going to double check them all and make sure there's no leaks, no O-ring blowouts, or nothing like that. All right, so knock on wood here, guys, that we might have actually figured out our mechanical gremlins. We originally thought it might have been tune issues, but it's not. We actually had two. We had the intake plenum was actually leaking out of that gasket on the inside, so we replaced that gasket, and then we found we actually had an injector seal leak issued back here on the number 4 cylinder. That's just because the injector dynamics injectors are so much bigger. The way they sit, we had to orient it a little different, and it wasn't sealing right. So fix that. She now runs like an absolute dream. Still got a test driver, but it's dark outside, so we'll get to that in a minute. Show you what else we got going. We pulled off the good old faithful Miata dash tombstone, and we started tucking in wires and gauges because we got to make a dash pad or dash panel, and we're actually going to put the screen in there. 10.1 inch actually looks pretty big inside this cab. Just saying, not compensating for much anything, but what that's given us is a chance to make the actual dash skin that we're going to use on the inside. So digital screen here, blank off where the original gauges went, and then key, button, accessories. Thoughts, Mr. Dakota?
Anyone that tells you that race cars can't look cool just doesn't have any talent.
Daniel? Thoughts? That's kind of what I was hoping you'd say. Yeah, we've already mocked it up. It's going to look great.
Friday night update, and we have done some stuff.
A lot of stuff, actually.
So,
not just some.
In the back deck, we went ahead and installed some really nice 6x9s and actually put kill mat across the entire back of that thing and remounted it. So now it's way less rattly, way less sound coming out of the tin in the rear hatch area. But let's show you the really exciting part. So after several days of messing around with it, we were able to get our dash all the way installed. Now originally we planned on running that plastic backing, and we were able to get away with removing that, and we're running just the aluminum dash now. We also added this sweet retro looking Bluetooth receiver. So he's got a stereo now that actually sounds really good. Sounds a lot better than the one on my Triumph. And now what you'll notice is as soon as the key comes on, it starts going into Megasquirt and activating the last program, which is actually reading data from the car. So you can see we've got all of our readout from the ECU here. And as soon as the car's running, obviously it starts displaying data. So pretty sweet, feeling good about that. I think we're gonna go ahead and start working on trying to get the floor kill matted and get a little bit more sound deadening in here.
Hey guys, guess what? Update time. Kill mat's done. Also, aside from the kill mat, we ended up going ahead and taping everything off. Got the door jambs and door sills completely painted with a satin black, just to make it match a little bit better. No more ketchup and mustard on the car. Just black and yellow, well, except for that spot right there. But we're not going to talk about that because that was Dakota's job and handiwork.
Oh, great.
So we're not going to talk about that.
No problem.
But yeah, kill mat, now everything is Bumblebee throughout virtually the entire car. So looks good. Almost there. Almost done. What do you think, D? Pretty happy?
I'm enthusiastic for the fact that the kill mat is going to keep a lot of heat and noise out of the cab. So just to emphasize why we're doing all this kill mat, so what do you have there?
It's a piece of 050 sheet aluminum. I think it's 50-56 or 60-61. Either way, it doesn't matter. Just plain Jane aluminum cut off strip that we got left over.
Just give us a belt buckle height drop to emphasize what you might hear on the road in a rattling condition. Perfect. Now let's coat that.
Now what you can see is we just have a little cut off strip of the kill mat. We're not coating the whole thing. We're just going to take a simple strip and run it kind of down the middle. Right? Pretty serious difference in the sound and the sound deadening overall. Like I said, that's just a little piece. We've got the entire inside of the car covered. Taking a look at that little list we got going. Finished off a couple things. Dee's been working on trans tunnel skin. Go ahead and take a look at it. So he's been at it for a little bit. Ended up getting this full-size trans tunnel cover skin. We also have a universal shift boot going on here. Put the handle back on for the light lever, and we got it nice and bead rolled so it's nice and stiff. Already got holes drilled for rivets or screws, and we're gonna take this thing out, paint it up, make it match the rest of the beautiful Bumblebee interior, and I'll see you in a minute.
So one of the small things that we needed to get done was we needed to get this faux valve cover better mounted, because what was happening was it would rattle loose and then it would chatter a whole lot because we couldn't put a lot of pressure on it, because the two-part epoxy that we're using to hold the brace down to the original valve cover just kept breaking. So we ended up actually drilling and tapping and mounting it permanently to the valve cover, and now we're able to tighten it up much more, so that should prevent it from rattling. And while we're in there, we went ahead and threw another valve cover gasket on there. So just one of those small things, but it'll make it so that when we get there, the thing's sitting straight and it's not rattling. So small thing, but it really completes the look of the engine bay, so it had to happen. Moving on. In the interior, last night we were able to get the door handles back on and the window cranks in place and got the windows rolling up nicely. And then I went ahead and remade our shifter here. So the way that we had it before was a little bit wonky. It was really long and then came up rather abruptly. So this is a little bit shorter and a little bit more of a gradual angle, and really it's a bit more sporty. It also doesn't hit our trans tunnel anymore like it did before when we put in that other patch panel. Obviously we made the skin and we put some non-stick on there so that his phone doesn't slide around if he wants to throw it up there. Threw a horn button on there. Got everything all tucked in back here. Went ahead and finished some sound deadening in there. I think today we're going to work on trying to get a fire extinguisher mounted and maybe an armrest So I think we're trying to find a way to use the fire extinguisher and incorporate it into the armrest, but that's to be determined. So let me show you what else we got done. Cody was pretty obsessed with this idea of integrating some LEDs into the ventilation here in the back window. It's actually a cab vent, and wanted to make it into a third brake light. And he decided it probably wasn't going to work, but we surprised him and made it work anyways. And when he came over the other night, it was already working. So that looks something like this. Not that this car is subtle in any way, but a little bit of extra light in the back of the car to keep him from getting rear-ended, make it a little safer at night is going to be nice. Obviously, something going on here. And we've actually cut the window out of Lexan, and we're going to end up putting a double knock-a-duct here in an attempt to try and get a little bit of airflow into the car when the car is moving. Hopefully that'll keep them from overheating and cooking in the car while they're on the cruise routes and stuff. So hopefully parts will be here tonight for that, and we'll be able to knock that out.
Finally got that shipment we were waiting for, and the knock-a-duct is in. Came in a day early. And D is over here working hard and diligently because he knows what he's doing and I don't.
Try and get it right the first time.
Well, I mean, we have a full sheet of Lexan over there, but he's absolutely right. Get it right the first time.
It's easier the first time than the second time.
Yeah.
There we go. So we have our dual knock-a-duct. I think these are dual 2.5s. It might be dual 3s. But that's our window now. And it comes down, you'll notice it comes straight in and right across that back deck at this angle. So we tried putting the swamp cooler right here in front of it. It blows from here. It sucks in air and circulates the cab. So I burned a piece of incense and held it around the cab to see where the smoke would go. And it actually fully circulates the cab based on the wind that makes from here. So it does move air, we know that. We'll actually see what it does under speed, but that'll definitely help even with the windows open and move a little bit of air so you're not just cooking out there on the cruise routes. But we need a test drive.
We do need to test drive it.
Let's skip to that part.
Still got an issue. That shifter's gonna take some getting used to. Yeah, it's a lot shorter of a throw, that's for sure.
Still runs like we don't know why. So we're gonna look at it some more. Take 2. He replaced a hose that was leaking. Oh,
Man.
thank you. Woo. So he replaced a hose, and maybe it's a thing. Let's try again.
Still pushing way fucking lean. I don't like that part.
Seemed better. Still not good.
Still not good. Still pushing real lean.
But that was better.
Well, I'll call Toby tomorrow and see if he's got time. Because if we were running a lean condition the whole time and we were chasing that, it's not gonna be.
So still not right. Still something not hitting correctly. So this intermittent problem is pretty consistent at this point. And although he's fixed several vacuum leaks, an injector leak, and a bunch of other things that seem to be an issue, it hasn't rectified. So I think at this point we need to talk to the tuner, because even though we have so much information on the digital dash, we're missing something here. All right, guys, we made it down here. Toby's being super cool. He's got the shop opened up on a Sunday, and he's agreed to see us real quick, take a look, give us a once-over before we try and head out of town. So really appreciate him taking the time to let us do that. That's super freaking cool of him. He's the super MVP. So hopefully he sees something we haven't seen yet. Now at this point, Toby had a lot of things going on in the shop, and his friend Joe from Time Warp Tuning happened to be there and offered to do some ride-along tuning with Cody so that he could free up Toby a little bit while he did some other things. So Joe ended up being a super cool guy and helped us get it dialed in a lot better because he was able to actually look at some of that data and recognize what was happening. So they did, after several gratuitous passes, start getting it to run a little bit better each time. So Joe here went ahead and he was doing the tune while driving with Cody, and the car sounds a lot better. It seems like we figured out what's wrong. It's probably gonna need a fuel pump upgrade, but that's not gonna happen before Hot August nights. Your first impressions riding in Project Blitz?
Dude, it drives, it feels and drives a lot better than it looks. It feels really solid. Feels quick for especially the power it's making. Like I said, it needs a fuel pump, so F-bars are a little inconsistent, but it seems fine for now until you get a fuel pump in it. Yeah. But dude, it feels great, it looks great. It's pretty solid. I mean, much more than it looks, you know? Because, you know, you figure something, you know, old from the 70s.
Wasn't totally terrifying?
No, it wasn't terrifying at all. I've been in a lot more terrifying newer cars that have made less power, so.
Well, it sounds a lot better, so we appreciate you.
Yeah, no worries,
definitely.
guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we're gonna head home. It looks like the main problem that we're having is we're running out of fuel pump just a bit. Now, the interesting thing there is basically what it comes down to is sometimes you get away with the stock pump, sometimes you don't. This is actually a pretty easily solved problem. We have a part number for what we're gonna replace it with. Not a big deal. But now he can actually get it in a boost and it'll be fine for Hot August nights, but there's room for improvement as soon as we get back. So for now, we're gonna drive it home, go from there. There you have it, guys. Garage is obviously open. So we went down to AED. They went ahead and got us set up. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Toby, of course. It's running a lot better than it was. Still, like I said, there's room for improvement. We're gonna swap that pump out, and that should give us a much more broad tune. We're dealing with a little bit of intermittent fuel pressure. So we are able to get in a boost. It's just when he legs it out and he hits boost in multiple gears and makes an actual pull, it'll actually start to break up a little bit because it's running out of fuel. But for driving normally, where you're only getting into it for spurts, it drove all the way home. Temperature was great. The sound deadening worked awesome. The temperature inside the car was a lot more bearable with the kill mat in there. So yeah, we even hit some gridlock traffic and got a realistic interpretation of what the car is going to do on a cruise route, and it was way better.
Intake temp stayed really good. I mean, engine temp stayed really good. I mean, it was great all the way around.
So that was awesome. I'm feeling really confident about it and that it's going to do great up in Reno. Yep. So the next time you see this car, we will be in Reno. So I think for this one, that's it.
Do the thing.
Wackadoo out.